Welcome back to another episode of the Talos of Tech podcast with your co-host, Randy. That is me. Hello. You all knew that. And your other co-host, Mike. Hello, Mike. How are you? You guys already knew that.
Yeah, I'd hope people know me at this point, Randy. I'm doing well. Unfortunately,
Hello.
we don't have Drew with us this week. We hope that everything goes well on his end and that
He'll be back. He'll be back next week for another episode. Just
life stuff.
Life stuff's going on. I hope Drew feels better. We will see him next week. But for now, we will carry the mantle of such, like, how do you come back from a season premiere of Apple Vision Pro like that? I was reading the comments. Yes, we do read the comments. And some of you guys don't seem to be all that interested in headsets and VR. And so I took it upon myself to return mine today. You're welcome, audience. And the ones that were interested in it, I took it upon myself to get more information about it. So you're welcome, audience. But before we keep beating that dead horse to more dead, Mike, I wanted to ask you something about the Quest 3.
I can give you an answer about the Quest 3. And
I had follow-ups. I realized I think I was more... Last week when we did the podcast, that was the longest I had been wearing the headset consecutively. So I think I was more enamored by everything going on around me and the head strain I was getting. But
Right.
I've since then had time to reflect on the state of tech. And since Apple is the biggest driving force in tech as we know it, we've now have a new emphasis on headsets and AR, VR, or MR, or any other R, what they call spatial computing. Have you seen recently Mark Zuckerberg's response to the Apple Vision Pro?
Funny enough, I have not. My mother sent me a link of it as well, and I just didn't get the chance to read upon it. I've been busy with a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'm sure he had wonderful words to share about the Vision Pro and how it compares to the MetaQuest 3.
So I'm going to tell you some highlights, and my question to you would be more within the responses to what old Zuck is saying, and you tell me if how off base or on base he is with it. But the first thing he said was that he does compliment the feat of engineering that went into the thing, but it's a very backhanded compliment because the whole time he's saying, not only did I think our headset would be better at cheaper, but after putting it on and using it, I realized we are better in every sense. He doubled down on his stance on everything Quest 3. He had no negative thing. He's like, this video is actually being recorded on the Quest 3, Vision Quest. And the video didn't look good, by the way. I just got to say, it didn't look good. But he obviously attacked the pricing, which, okay, fair. I'm not keeping it because of the pricing.
Mm-hmm.
He attacked the pass-through, which I find interesting. I have not used Quest 3, so I don't know. I can't compare and contrast, but he said his pass-through is better for cheaper. He attacked the lack of peripherals that you can use to interact with the world around you. Mm-hmm. He attacked the depth, your peripherals, like peripheral line of sight. So basically how it's very narrow, and Quest 3 has more. And he attacked the lack of apps. He basically went after everything. He goes, ours is lighter. Ours is... Senator, we don't know what Apple... I think about how he's always getting grilled. He just stands there. Senator, I work at Facebook. But he basically said in every sense of the word, my biggest takeaway is he says Quest 3 is better, cheaper, and more advanced than Vision Pro. He commends them for doing going so far into it with the one for one in the world and how everything is more or less it could be seen, but then he just kind of leans into how Quest 3 is just more. My my issue I took away from him was that he didn't like. I'll give you an example of a backhanded compliment, and this is where I find an issue.
Okay.
The eye tracking in Vision Pro.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, yeah, you guys put that in there, but we had that first and we took it out, but it will be coming back. He says it will be coming back in a future generation, which I'm sure his engineers were just like hearing it for the first time. Wait, what? But um, he, anything that Apple was doing to make it so seamless, his was
Hmm.
like, scoffing.
Hmm.
And I don't know, because I didn't get to use the Quest 3 and you have, I don't know how much merit his words have to say. I know he's obviously like supreme leader of Meta, so of course he has to rep that, but I don't know if all that is accurate, and I wanted, since you got to try on both, what did you think in regards to, is Meta better with pass through? Is Meta better without the eye tracking and yet it can still do all those other inputs? Is Meta better? I know it's better from last week's episode. I know it's better with how much more, you know, degree vision view that you have, through your eyes. But outside of that, I don't know about the apps. I don't know about just the overall engagement with it. So is old Zuck right? Is this a $3,500 waste of time and his $500 godsend is the best thing ever, or what?
I guess it's a tough. It's not clear as day, I would say, in terms of an answer. I think the Quest 3, he has some good points. The Quest 3 has a lot going for it, both in price and in what it offers with a marketplace, the apps that are available, the use cases that you could apply it to. It's got a bunch, and they've had 3 different versions, or at least they've had a lineage of quests to build upon to develop it into a more cohesive product. And of course, maybe hearing about and whispers about the Vision Pro influenced a lot of the cameras on the front of the MetaQuest 3. I wouldn't say the pass through is better. And also, the cameras on the front, I'm not too sure give a better output than what Vision Pros either pass through or even just what you see with what YouTubers put on YouTube uh, show in terms of comparison of the two. I think they're both pretty all right, especially when using it in the space for moving objects around, whether it's physical objects or virtual objects. And you can pretty much tell what's going on, but I don't think Quest 3, from my experience, has a leg up on Vision Pro's pass through. Vision
Mm,
Pro feels a lot more uh, IRL interface feeling, where Quest 3 still has some of that screen door effect to get figured out, especially in low light situations. I didn't get to try Vision Pro in low light, but with the Quest 3, it was very much just, if once things got dark, I could pretty much tell where I'm walking in the house, and there's faint signs of color on the screen that was being projected to my eyes. But this any screens that I wanted to bring with me would struggle to follow me, even if I've got the controllers, not even using my hands to pinch and hold the screens and walk with them, but using the triggers on the controllers to try to grab it and then bring it along with me to whatever room. And if I have to go through a dark place, it'll just let go, even though I haven't let go of the triggers. So there's still some issues on both sides of things. Vision Pro, namely, being it's a first gen product. So it's
yeah.
got a whole lot more uh, consumer testing and feedback to build upon to get to a better standing with what engineers want people to experience and what the people want to experience and have the engineers make or at least integrate into the product.
Yeah.
So with Quest 3, I think this is kind of the battle that we want, in my opinion. I know a lot of people don't want to compare these two headsets because the price, and then also one strives to be more VR while the other one strives to be more AR. Yet,
The one is more generations in deep than the other two.
right. But what I should also add to that is that was it Vision Pro just added the Job Simulator game, which is, I believe, a VR only game. It's not an AR game. So the Job Simulator game is a VR game that's being added to Vision Pro. So I think they both have their focuses. They're just dipping into each other's baskets for what is good and what's uh, more sought after. And
Yeah.
so at that point, it just becomes, from my viewpoint, Apple versus Android, or Samsung versus Apple
He brought that
versus
up.
anything
Zuck
else. Yeah.
said Apple, because there he says this is what he said. Apple won in the mobile department with the closed uh, network. Like everything's done in house, and they
Mm-hmm.
won. He's like, but that wasn't always the case. Uh, the closed door model didn't work for PC. It was Windows, and for spatial computing, or at least that's how we're going to call it now. Uh, Zuck is like he's like I'm in the open source model, like the open door. Everything's like out there, and you know, this is my stance. I'm going to take in, and so he's putting his feet down. It felt like he was just a little bit of damage control, just a little bit. But the thing is, like, that's a good time to talk about the Quest 3 because the one thing he can objectively rub in Apple's face is, uh, you know, his is 6 times cheaper, 7 times
Yeah,
cheaper. His is 7 times cheaper. Jeez.
pretty
Um,
much. And
but
that increases the adaptability of that product. Do you want to pay $3,000 more for something that you could get for
no, I
five
don't.
hundred dollars?
I don't want to pay
No.
$500 is more palatable, but I don't even want to do that. And I'm not saying from Randy's standpoint, based off of where I'm at right now, where I can't afford to be spending that type of money. I'm just
Mhm.
saying it in the sense that like I had 2 weeks with the device, and I probably wore it out of the 2 weeks, 14 days. Okay, 24 hours times 14. Out of all those hours, I probably spent, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours tops if I'm being generous.
Mhm.
I did not wear it that often because it's heavy, it's tiring, it's not very immersive in the sense of being around my family. I did
No.
today though. I took more. My son was right here behind me, where I sit now, walking around, playing with this dual band head strap of it, and he's just wiggling. I'll show you offline. It's kind of cute, but in the headset environment, I was taking more photos and videos of him. I took a little family photo, at least with him and mom,
Mhm.
and I I, I know in the future, I know for sure in the future, I will be an owner of some spatial computing device that will let me look at these photos and looking at my son just be happy, smiling, and he's not posing for the camera, the candid shots, but they almost look like their poses. I'm like I can't wait to see these photos again in the future when he's older and just like lose my mind. So once again, even as I was getting ready to pack it up and send it back, I was, being Pixar'd into it again. I was like, oh, it's coming after my heartstrings again. It was just so cute. But he's looking at me because he's actually looking at the headset, like he's doing like, what is that on your face? I don't understand. I
What
uh
happened to your eyes?
I
Where are your
ended up,
eyes, Dad?
yeah, he didn't know. But for $3,500, here's something that Meta can't do. I ended up keeping a souvenir, Mike.
Okay. Randy is holding up the Apple Vision Pro polishing cloth. How'd you get away with that? Is that just something that Apple's okay with letting go? Or do you think they're going to come after you?
Well, if I need you to cut this part out, I'll let you know. They turned it in, they refunded my money, but it wasn't even intentional. It's not that I forgot to put it back in. I forgot the cable too, but they dismissed the cable. I put the power brick in there, but the cable didn't go in. I was like, oh, oops. So I threw in the nylon cable that comes on an iPhone 15 because I had a spare,
Just with
and
you.
just with me, and I put that in there instead. They don't care. They're gonna see. They care about the headset. They checked the headset. They opened it. They inspected it to make sure everything was good and nothing was broken. And
Mm-hmm.
they asked me why are you returning it, and I said because it makes me dizzy after 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Typical
And
response.
and I'm a broke boy, but
Yeah.
uh,
What's
I
funny
I
is I
what
also gave the same response to Meta when I returned my Meta Quest 3. I guess spoilers, but not spoilers. I also returned mine, as you could tell, because I'm not wearing it.
ha.
Um, if I've not edited it out, because I'm editing the podcast this week, the faceplate is still here, in which I can wear on my face and just look very weird
Uncomfortable.
looking. Yeah, very uncomfortable looking. But yeah, I also quoted that it made me dizzy, which it did. I guess what I didn't share is that also on my final few days with it, there's a lot of different trial games that I could play on it. So I tried. Oh goodness, it's like uh, it's like working out with guns. I forget the name of it. Someone will put it in the comments. It's like Beat Saber but with guns, and
Oh,
it's
that's cool.
infinitely more fun and challenging than Beat Saber in my opinion because you're having to aim and fire, and sometimes it'd work where you could blind fire, just not look at the reticle and aim in the direction that you think someone is, and shoot the polygon enemy. Uh, and it was a fun game, but other games like was it Mountain Climber Simulator or whatever it is, that got me very
I remember that one. I
yeah
played that
that
one.
that got me very dizzy. It just for some reason you moving in I guess two different directions in a VR area or simulation just wigs out my brain because I'm standing there not moving, but I'm just moving my arms and looking around, but at the same time my character in the game is moving, and it just threw off my vestibular system or something else, and I was just feeling wobbly and not feeling good in the stomach. But for some reason the gun game one, I think maybe because you're only running in a straight line, uh, and you are kind of looking around a little bit, but there's music playing and you're actively trying to shoot people, distracts you a little bit more. Where for the mountain climbing one, there's a little bit less distraction on the environment and more focus on where you're moving to, which just wasn't a fun time. So I too returned it also with the intent of, yeah, I'm not going to keep this, and also I'm feeling a little sick using it.
I
And then
did get dizzy
also,
for real though. You know,
yeah.
I wasn't really. I mean, I was embellishing how aggressive it was, but this morning I the one thing I didn't get to test with the headset was Apple TV, so I went in to watch their immersive content, which is really cool. But
Mm-hmm.
oh man, I was like, I think I'm getting frame rate sickness or something. I don't know. Something. I watched the prehistoric video one. There was one there. I watched one with this girl who is walking across a line of rope from up high in Norway and out in the mountains. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was very like you can get vertigo if you're looking down. You're like whoa. Um,
Yeah.
and then I watched Alicia Keys do a rehearsal set for her upcoming tour or something. So I was in the room watching her practice with her band, which was kind of cool. And
Mm.
yeah, but and I did it in that order. I did dinosaurs, the 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 woman walking across the rope, and then Alicia Keys. I did that, those three. And by Alicia Keys, I was like, "Whoo! I need to take this off." I was getting cold sweats, and I was just sitting passively. Unlike the experience, the dinosaur, you know, demo, your hands aren't visible in that world when you're watching TV. It's just your surroundings, but still something about them. Just like I'm getting nauseous. It would be so much worse if the thing started shaking a little bit. You know, like if it started, then I know I'd be throwing up all over the place. But it overall, I'll end it with this, and then we can put our vision, our headset, and meta and all that, you know, in the past. We could talk onto other things. The
Mm.
world is much duller now. The colors are a little less vibrant. Because I don't. What, you want me, what are we supposed to talk about? Upcoming SE or the fact that Apple Watch is banned and like all that is kind of silly. But anyway, so here's let me say what I got to say about the headset. It is by far one of the coolest pieces of technology I think I've got to experience in my adult life. Uh, I put a video out on Twitter more than a couple weeks ago, about a month ago now, stating that like the hype leading up to it was real, and I understood it because I saw it with iPhone and I saw it with Apple Watch,
Hmm.
and Apple Watch had me so excited, and it was also significantly cheaper, so a lot more people got into it. But all that to say that like the hype of a new product category, it lived up to the hype because it is a Gen 1 product. You can see the flaws, you can see the issues, you can see where there's room for improvement. And much like Meta with their Quest 3, going all the way back to their very first product, going all the way back to like, you know, when we used to call it Oculus and stuff like that, like, those things were really cool demos. The PlayStation VR. Now, all these things are like cool things to experience. But it's about that ecosystem, man. I don't know. The one thing I have to recommend to anybody who's going to pull that trigger is, the more vibrant your ecosystem is in Apple, the better the headset's going to be.
Hmm.
Because I was texting you all day today on the headset. I
Oh,
pulled it up and I was
that's
just,
news to me.
yeah. So I'm going like this, which is probably why there was a lack of emojis. I'm a very big emoji user in my text to convey emotion, and I was just typing really quickly and whoop and sending it. But like just the fact that like I can see my contacts, I can watch my shows, and I know it's just you can see the flaws. The headset from a more practical my headspace, me being the practical headspace, I would say. Drew being the Apple sheep, and me attacking him when he's doing un-Apple things. So maybe I'm an Apple sheep too. But Drew being the big Apple sheep that he is, he gives his review from the stance of an Apple sheep. My overall review is that of maybe more in the middle, because I own a Quest. I actually have it. I was gonna bring it out for today too, but then
I
once
think
I
you have the
realized
Quest 2, don't you?
I do. I
Mm.
I've used VR. I've used PSVR as well, the first one. Like I've been in this space for a while, passively more so than anything else. But I know what I know from it.
Hmm.
This is a game changing product. The Vision Pro is everything the hype is. It's just really expensive. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's crazy expensive. I There's no doubt in my mind that we will see the shift happen if we move towards a more comfortable headset, one that's more seamless, maybe higher frame rate, one that's just more immersive in the sense that like you can't differentiate between what's on your face and what's not, and maybe it's not so awkward around your family, and there's a better battery, and you got so much more, just everything going on, right? There's no doubt in my mind so many more people are going to own one of these. This will be the next Apple Watch or even iPad, and everybody has something that complements their iPhone, something that complements their Mac.
Hmm.
You There's not going to be a person who has a headset and not another Apple product. And as long as you have one other Apple product, you're going to be good. So, good job Apple. Make the product cheaper and help with that dizziness I was getting. That was kind of weird, the nauseousness because of everything was kind of blurry, and yeah. They
Do you
they
think it
they
should
know.
be a product that should stand on its own rather than being a complementary accessory to the iPhone or Mac?
Ooh. Right, if you're asking me today, no, because it's such a scary new territory. You need some
Hmm.
type of continuity between what you're familiar with and what you're being introduced to.
Hmm.
In the future, much like smartphones are people's main computers, they don't even own a PC or a Mac. In the future, it can be its own standalone product for sure. I can see that being the case. I can see it being the case where you can wear it all day. You get an 8 hour battery life out of it, and you can go driving, you can go whatever, and Like it's with you, and it's not a health risk, a safety risk. I can see that. I can definitely see that in the future, and by that I mean 10 years, 20 years. Like it's not tomorrow. It's not in. It's not in the 2020s, but I do see it coming. It almost feels like that's the most next best thing is create a product that is so passive and so immersive that you don't have to really think about it, like an Apple Watch or like your iPhone. But the iPhone is very you have to be engaged with it, but we're so addicted to them. You just like you're always in it.
Right.
So yeah, I it's scary. The thought of being that embodied into a product is creepy. I have some from a tech standpoint, it's an amazing piece of technology. From an ethical point, I have some concerns. But and I'm not even talking from the cybersecurity standpoint that I background. I'm talking from an addicted point of view, from a discerning the real world to the tech, the fake world, the digital world. Like that's uncomfortable. That's creepy. And so I have to rely on my wife to keep me grounded, or my son. I don't want to set that example of like, oh yeah, just be glued to your screen all day, as I'm
Yeah,
glued to my screen all day.
they'd have to improve the comfortability, or whatever word, the ease
That's
of
it.
use on your body, the reduce the fatigue on your facial muscles and everything. Like
Yeah.
somehow optimize it so that if you really want to get into the weeds with how automated and expensive the Vision Pro could get, make it so that all you do is it's kind of like oh goodness, either like an Iron Man suit or something else I was thinking of, but I'm forgetting it. But where you just basically put it on your head, you don't have to adjust it all. It does the adjusting for you. It's not necessarily suctions onto your head, but gets to the level of yes, this is where the eyes should be. This is where the facial pad should rest. This is where it needs to support on the on the top of the head, on the side of the head, and make it so that it's not a huge weight on your head and neck, but still providing a good enough experience. You could go way far down that path of technology and making it like a 6,000. That could be the Vision Pro in like 2030. And
Yeah.
it would make sense for the name. That is a pro feature of it being able to just adjust on its own, where the regular Vision product, you have to do all the Velcro and snaps and adjustments and everything else.
Sure.
But yeah, for me, for a little bit of transparency for the last podcast, I have not worn the headset that long ever. So to
For
wear
the
it
Quest
for,
or for Apple or both?
sorry, for the Quest 3, uh, during the podcast that we recorded last,
That was
it was a
intense.
strain. Yeah, so what happened is I always had it on a tight setting, so that way when I was playing Beat Saber or anything else, I wouldn't magically whip it off by whipping or snapping my head/neck a certain direction. And so I should have adjusted it before the podcast because it was still somewhat comfortable. It's just it was squeezing my face so much that you can tell probably in the last episode I was adjusting a lot on video and just
Yeah.
trying to rest it in certain ways, not necessarily resting out of my hands, but just trying to see, does it feel better here? Does it feel better here? Does it feel better there? And so after an hour, that's why I did the checkup, because I was just tired of wearing it. Also, it doesn't have
Sure.
good pass through. So even
Yeah.
though I had you guys on the virtual mirror desktop in the headset, it was still kind of just, I was getting a little bit fatigued of being inside the machine. So
I get
being
it.
able to make these headsets feel more comfortable for longer periods of time is most likely the goal if you want people to use it more. Otherwise, I'm going to treat it like I did and kind of like how you did, is more as a toy,
Yep.
more of as a short experience that you enjoyed and then give it away. Like, it's great to demo. I agree with you. If you could demo the Quest 3 or the Vision Pro in the store, do it. It's a fun time.
Yeah.
But to buy it and then return it, I think is not responsible as consumers for us, because you're taking a product off the market for someone else who potentially could have gotten it. And along with
Hey,
that,
I could have been a legitimate owner. I needed to see how amazing it was.
sure.
I do buy things contrary to popular belief. I do buy things with the intent to keep, but it's on them to convince me to hold on to it because I'm not a believer in like payment plans, whatever. Like it's always cash out of my bank account.
Hmm.
And when you drop 35 no 3700 and some change after taxes on that, okay? um that is a real number, and like that's mortgage, that's bills, that's literally that's that's emergency savings to some people. Like some people don't even have that cash in their account ever, like just ever.
Hmm.
So it's on the company, because I don't just do it with Apple. I do it with a few other companies as well. It's on them to convince me. Don't convince me in
Sure.
your marketing. Convince me in the product. And the only way you can do that is I'm gonna use it and I'm gonna hold on to it, and we'll see. I bought the AirPods Max. Yeah, AirPods Max with the intent to keep them as a used product. And I just was like, well, there's too many hardware limitations for like lossless and for what I needed. So I just, even at a massive discount, I couldn't justify the money. And it's not that I didn't have $200 to $300 to spend; it's that it wasn't worth spending it on that. So Air or not Air, but Vision Pro could have been that for me. But oh well, someone else is going to enjoy it at a discount now. Um, Still a lot of
Right.
fun.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
will
mean
not.
to
Oh, go
put
ahead.
you in the spotlight or at
No,
least
you're good.
attack you in any way. It was more of just make the product that much more convincing to buy and or make it more available for people to check out. So that
Yeah,
way you don't have a whole bunch of people putting in $3,500 and then returning it a couple weeks later because that doesn't look good for the company, and then also for customers that want it and can't get it, not good for them as well. In which, yeah, boohoo, they should have ordered sooner or quicker, but there's only a certain amount of product available, and so
yeah,
you either get lucky and you get in line ahead of the cutoff, or you're stuck behind the cutoff and you just have to
yeah,
wait for a later iteration of it, whether they decide to build more or a used one comes on the market. So that's what I kind of meant. Kind of.
yeah.
That's what I intended.
You good?
But otherwise, it was a fun experience. I enjoyed it. Got full refund on everything else except for Beat Saber. Beat Saber I bought along with the Panic at the Disco pack. Fully paid that, and honestly, I put in the amount of time that probably voided the refund window of hours used in the game, and I'd say it
What's
was
your
well
favorite
worth it.
Panic song you were playing to with it when you were doing your Beat Saber thing?
Honestly, great was it the Greatest Showman cover
Yeah,
that Panic at the Disco did? They had that in there, and that one felt very immersive with the song. Some
that's
of
cool.
them felt like they were kind of just putting blocks at beats or
Yeah,
with maybe one or two different piano chords, and that's all right. But the Greatest Showman one very much like they make you duck down under a barrier as it's the this is the greatest show, and as you
yeah,
get to the word show you're rising up and then slicing a block, and then they've got some cool blocks that link together or whatever, so you're kind of whipping your arms around like a conductor and all that, or
that's
a
cool.
showman. It
I
was
played.
very fun and immersive.
I used Beat Saber. A friend had a Linkin Park pack, and I was playing one of the songs from the Transformers soundtrack. I think it was New Divide, and so
Mm,
I felt like I was fighting Transformers, Decepticons, and stuff. Like, dun dun dun, nah, nah, nah. I'm just going all dun dun dun, nah. I was just getting all into it. I was like, woo!
such a
I
good
was getting
song.
sweat up. That
New Divide's a good one,
is
but
a good
yeah,
one.
I feel like
Yeah,
they need to add more packs so
I
that
felt like
way.
Shia LaBeouf up in there just trying to save Megan Fox.
Right. I think that Meta either needs to embrace the modding community and add a whole bunch of the modded community's songs either to playlists that you could buy, or just embrace them entirely with here's a free library of all the songs. And to gain access, maybe it's like a $5 entry or whatever, but or $10 entry, but or maybe 20. Either or gets them into all the curated songs that people made, and then you can enjoy them and all that. Or maybe it's a subscription. Maybe that's even better for Meta because then they could just capitalize on it. And then maybe how many times that song is played by someone else maybe goes back into that creator as a nice benefit, but maybe Meta wouldn't want that. They just want to take all your money. But I mean, they're a company. So I guess what I'm getting at is there's so much more that both companies can probably build on to make their products that much more alluring. And so that's why that's what I definitely got from my experience with the Quest 3, and then what I heard from you and Drew about the Vision Pro, and then a little bit of my experience with Vision Pro. But
I have
all in all, it was a fun first part of the year.
yes, I no, I agree. That was exhilarating. I did not have as much fun. I'm going to be transparent. I did not have as much fun writing music on the thing because I am going back and forth on the Logic app itself to the keyboard or the mic or whatever, and it's like this is obstructing everything. It actually took me out of it. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't focus on music. So it's not fun for music writing. So
yeah, it seemed like Drew had that same experience with trying to edit from his, I think, 30-minute video, if you caught it or not, of Vision Pro.
Yeah, I watched it.
Trying to edit it while live streaming, because that's a special use case. Usually people aren't live streaming while editing. But even so, the fact that even Marquez has brought this up, it's very single task oriented because it relies on where you're looking at, which is a little bit of a bummer. It'd be nice to have multitasking in a way where you don't have to look at a window, but you know it's there and you can click on it and select a button, or at least even use your hand to be able to reach out, know where some preset buttons are for an application or something else, and tap it. That'd be great. But instead, you have to very much look at display and then intentionally either use your hand or with Vision Pro, use your eyes and then tap with your fingers what you want to select, or use the mouse. Feels like very Gen 1 issues that hopefully Gen 2 smooths out. But maybe in Apple's case, they push it back to Gen 3 or Gen 4.
Maybe. All right. We'll move on from the headset conversation, talking other things. But not so abruptly, because there's something from the OS that I am extremely hyper-focused on for some reason. Well, I know what the reason is, but me being an aesthetic person, and I like shapes and blah, 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 blah. I am hoping so bad that this year in 2024, it's the year of trying to make things mend to the design language of the Vision OS skin. This like glassy, almost new. Okay, so you got skeuomorphism. You had the minimalistic flat design. You have newmorphism.
Newmorphism, I think.
Yeah, like that was that is you know what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
That was extremely present in the headset, and oh my god, it was so clean. I never once went into the dark mode because I took it all in. I loved opening up all these different applications so I could just look at the design of it. It was so much fun, and it felt clean because it still had that minimalistic design thing, but with your 3D elements kind of popping out of it, and it felt. And when I can go up and just start touching something, like I would touch on your name, and then touch on the text bubble, and then it would come up, and then I would type like this. I was very often not doing the pinch thing because I wanted to feel like I was interacting with this UI. I was like, this would be such a quicker but also just a fun refresh on my phone and on the iPad, and I would even say even on the Mac. Like, and it cost you nothing, Apple, to make it feel like it's a bigger update than it is. It's just reskinning the product. I'm okay with that. I loved Vision OS. That's what had me so captivated by it. I didn't necessarily care for the headset. Vision Pro was uncomfortable and it did make me nauseous. But Vision OS, dude, I want all things Vision OS. If I can choose one OS to like go all in on, it's Vision OS. But I would that means I also want Vision OS on my phone. I want it on my iPad and I want it on my Mac. I want it on my watch. And in
Mhm.
some way, shape, or form, it kind of already is there. If you look at your dock, for example, if you have a MacBook, you look at your dock and the glassiness of the dock where your icons are at, it's just that, but everywhere, all over,
Mhm.
and it just feels clean. So I'm hoping iOS 18 in shoot in 4 months, dude, in 120 days, woo, and even less technically because we're about to be in March. Um,
Jeez.
I know, but
Time's running by too quickly, and we just got to 2024.
we just started. I feel like we're behind the curve because of the podcast starting late, but um, yeah, in 4 months when we have new software to show, I am really hoping for them to really like promote Vision OS and their new product. Everything kind of leans into that design. They did it with iPhone. When iPhone was the new kid on the block, they everything leaned into iPhone. The iPad took design language from iPhone, not Mac.
Mhm.
Ish. Like I'm talking about with like
Yeah.
how it's lined out. The thing that was actually kind of cool with iPad when iPad came out. I'm being very hyper specific here, but I just remember it because I was like, oh, that's neat. I think it was Snow Leopard or Leopard was the software at the time where your dock was not flat like this. It was laid down like a table, and your apps sat on that table, and it had that 3D element. The
Mhm.
iPad had that design language, which looked like iOS, which it was iOS, but iOS looking like Mac OS. That was the first one to do it. At the time, iPhone had a flat, like how it went back. It was doing like what we went back to now, and what it looks like on our Macs and on our docks anywhere. It was flat. That's how iPhone. That's how iOS looked like before. But the iPad had it flat, like laying like a table, like it did on Mac or OS 10. And
Mhm.
they did that to promote. Like hey, like it was them kind of like trying to like there's continuity between your different products, and yes, they're using different coding to get to the thing, but there is, as an end user, you are not that starting from step one again. You're like, oh, you have some familiarity about what's happening. um Apple Watch and Watch OS, same thing. When I pull up the Apple Watch and I go through these cards, these are widgets. These cards are widgets, and they look like the widgets that are on your widgets. So everything has some type of symmetry with everything. The difference is that Vision OS has your Apple Watch your Watch OS circle apps instead of rounded squares. That's the only difference. Um,
Mhm.
it's not that hard. I think now that we have a new product category that's new kid on the block and everybody wants to give it attention,
Mhm.
just take that glassy design and put it all over iOS 18, iPad OS 18, and uh, the watch. I mean, the watch. Very little you can do because it's kind of meant to be a black screen moving through, but still, there's a way you could do it. And if you do that, I mean, Apple Watch Series 9. You can't check your oxygen level, but you can still double tap to pinch the same way as Vision OS. So they're already starting to get you trained on stuff like that. It's
Mhm.
not. I don't see that being that much difficult to do. Software should be fun this year. I'm feeling software this year will be fun. I really hope they do it this year, not next year. We already had the product out now. We introduced Vision OS or Vision Pro last year. Let's have the design language match, and then it makes it feel like all other older products are reinvigorated, and it doesn't feel you know behind. Just
Mhm.
a facelift alone would be like, oh, dude, my Mac feels new again. My iPhone feels new. My Apple Watch, and dare I say, my iPad feels new again. And then everything feels modern, even if it's not. We have rumors of new iPads coming that are going to be drastically different since the 2018 models came out, and we've followed that design language. Now's the time if we're going to do Apple feels like they're doing some heavy lifting. They spent the last couple of years doing the silicon, the Mac Silicon M1, N2, N3, and just getting that refined. Now it's like, cool. Let's put some new products out there with this stuff. We're gonna have a brand new iPad with that chip in there, like design, brand new product category using an M2 chip, brand new. I would like to see a new Mac personally, MacBook, but
Yeah.
anyway, all this to say, my rambling here is just to say that I feel like this is a year where cheap tricks just make the OS look new by mimicking Vision OS, and everything will feel like it's not actually that behind. Disregarding the fact that I'm using a 2018 iPad, it won't feel that way. It won't feel like it's 6 years old, unless mine doesn't make the cut. Unless they're like, no, we're not doing this. Only M chip or
That would
something.
be a bummer.
Yeah, it would be a bummer, but yeah, I feel like we don't have to just Apple doesn't have to just focus all in on Vision Pro. You can now take the OS of that and just put it, and the whole lineup will still feel invigorated that way. So that's my hopes for this year.
Yeah, it does feel like this year will be a big push in the software domain. And at least I hope it is, because I'm not too sure where we're going in hardware, since we just got a big bump in well, we got a whole new product category. The idea that we're getting some big updates, or hopefully some big updates to like Vision Pro, or the iPhone or anything else like that, is exciting to me, at least, especially considering I might keep the 14 Pro around another year just to try to
Ooh,
stretch it out.
yeah.
I think your prediction from last year of me going for the SE4 or whatever might just manifest into me keeping my 14 Pro for another year and then pushing off to either the SE4 if it ever gets realized,
Which I
or
hope it does. Yeah.
yeah, or going for maybe a regular iPhone. I'm not too sure. I'm not
Yeah.
too sure at all where I stand in what products I'd be buying this year. So far, I've got a wonderful studio and a studio display. I have a MacBook Air. I've got iPhone 14. I've got the iPad Mini over here as well. I've got too much money in terms of tech right now. I'm trying to slow down a little bit. So I think maybe that's why I'm trying to manifest this idea of it's a software year, right? Please. My
I hope it
wallet
is.
is crying.
Yeah. I think the only thing that could maybe convince me. Hang on. Okay. Here's what I'm interested to see that might get me interested in some hardware this year.
Okay.
The first one, completely unpractical, but it's not about practicality. It's about emotions.
Mm.
I would love to see Apple bring back from the dead, arise from the graveyard, the old 2015 MacBook that was just the slimmest thing ever. I want a lighter MacBook Air, a smaller MacBook Air that just has beefy internals now that you can work off of. I would love to see that, because my MacBook Pro, I'm not in the market of a new MacBook, by the way, but my MacBook Pro, with all its glorious Retina ProMotion mini LED, or it's closed right now. I use my studio display. I'm looking at you through my studio display. I like my studio display. I don't see myself moving around much anymore. When I bought the MacBook Pro, and before that was the M1 MacBook Airs, because I was moving cross country, and 2021 was a very, I'm all over the place. Now I'm stationary.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to have a really, at the end of the day, I just want to have a really good, kick-ass studio that I could just go all in on. But with the MacBook being there, that I could take it with me somewhere, I just want something really light. I just want something portable, and I loved the simplicity of the 2015 MacBook design. It was I'm not looking for one single USB-C port necessarily, but I am looking for just the most minimalistic design that I could use. But
Hmm.
it doesn't mean I would buy it. I just want to see it out there because I know friends who would buy that in a heartbeat. And I might be friends. It might be me too. I don't know, depending on the
I am
price.
my friends.
I
I
am
want
my
to buy it.
friends. Me. The other thing though, for real, and I hope I can talk myself out of it, I I'm scared I will pull the trigger on the inevitable iPad announcement. I'm scared I will not have the discipline to say no.
Hmm.
And I don't feel like I need an iPad, but I don't care. It's like I want one. And so I hope I could if I could say no to a $3,500 headset, I feel like I can say no to an iPad, but the difference is like I'm not even dropping a grand. La, 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 la. I can see myself making some stupid case like that. So I hope I just get it off my chest, and then it takes the temptation away. But an iPad would be really cool because I'm very very interested to see what the iPad can do. Um, I'm not as I'm not as doubtful as Drew is about iPad anymore, and I think it's because I understood its place and I've been using it for its intended purpose. Um, there's a there's a there's an acceptance that kind of comes with it. The iPad to me right now, the iPad Pro that I use is my pretend MacBook, the thin 2015 MacBook equivalent. Like I use it for a lot of things that I don't need to grab my Mac for. I only use my Mac for this, what we're doing right now, Logic, Final Cut. That's it. And I'm always going to be a Mac OS guy. I'm not going to replace it, but that's all I use it for. And if I could like custom make a Mac to just do that and not worry about all the rest of the other stuff, I don't really care about the other stuff. I just need to write my music, record our shows, and edit some video, and then that's that. Everything
Hmm.
else is on the phone or iPad.
Right.
Maybe one day a Vision Pro, whatever. But that's why I'm scared I might pull the trigger on an iPad because everything else is done on an iPad, and that's weird to me. So
Yeah.
I'm not as disciplined as you are maybe this year about buying hardware if it comes out, but time
Yeah.
will tell.
Yeah. I'm not really in the market for a new iPad.
Good.
Uh, I'm loving my iPad mini. I use it right now just to read comics and mangas and all that. And it's perfect. It's the perfect form factor for having in my hands, either on the couch or in bed or wherever else I'm reading comics. And
Good.
easy to pack it around and all that. It's fantastic. I love it. And it
Ladies and
also,
gentlemen, don't listen to me. Listen to Mike. He does have the more logical. He's absolutely correct. iPad Mini is the best iPad.
I
I'm
was
just
digging through some of my old tech and I found I think it was the iPad Pro that my mother got my grandma and then was passed on to me when she passed away. And I held it up when I was unpacking. And I thought, do I want this out on my desk with the rest of my tech? Am I going to use this? Do I even put it on the piano that I have and use it as kind of a digital piano note display? So that way I don't have to print out a whole bunch of note pages if I ever want to play the piano. I don't think there's a justification. I booted it up, looked on it to see if there's any images on it. Not really many that I really cared for. Deleted a bunch of stuff. And I thought, oh, this would actually be a nice like storage solution for backing up some photos. And then I put it back in the box because I thought I don't need this big iPad. Also, it's not really too easy to hold because it's super smooth and the edges kind of curve up on it. It's that old version of it. Didn't get squared off yet. Where my iPad mini is squared off and it just feels that much more grippier with my big meaty fingers. So the form factor and just the utility that I use an iPad for doesn't justify a new one for me. But and I don't need a new computer either. I think if anything, it's probably an iPhone if they come out with some killer stuff. Otherwise, I'm not really. I hope I'm not in the skin, or I'm my skin is not in the game for any new products from Apple, in which it'd be great and not great for Apple to convince me otherwise. And
yeah.
so, kind of crossing my fingers, but kind of not.
I as a fan of the lineup, but maybe not an owner. I really hope we see an SE4. Uh, just because of if the not the promises, there's nothing to ever promise, but if the rumors are true that it has USB-C and it has a fixed two camera system to help with spatial video, if it has the the te- the mappable button instead
Hmm.
of a switch, like all that stuff is, well, I guess maybe not uh, spatial photos or videos, that could be debated, but the USB C and the mappable button are objectively better approaches to a product in a refinement stage, and I want to see that everywhere. If I haven't seen it, I want to see it everywhere, um, and maybe even more selfishly, if you do it and you get it, then I can live vicariously through you about that phone because it would be a cool phone and nothing else. But I want to see the SC4 come out hopefully this spring. That would be really cool. I doubt it. I think the spring event, if there is a spring event, which I don't even know if there's going to be one, that'd be next month. I hope there is, selfishly. And if there is, I think it's all iPads. I think it's going to be all about iPads, maybe a Mac. They'll talk about Vision Pro and all its stats. New colors for the iPhone for the, mid-cycle refresh.
Do you think we're
Uh,
finally gonna get a red?
bro, I, I I'm gonna be selfish again really quickly and say I hope not, because I would see myself trying to sell my beautiful black iPhone 15 for that
Hmm.
thing. I'm perfectly content with the base 15 still. I do miss the Pro, but I don't know, man. I feel something changing in me, if I'm being honest with you. I don't want to spend these types of money. I think it's because I'm just house broke, to be honest. I think I'm house broke.
All
So
the money's gone.
all the money's gone. Like, I got money, but it's tied up in the house. um,
Welcome to home
but
ownership, part three.
part three, man. Hopefully, I can get part two resolved soon. I'm hoping, dude. But yeah, I love doing more with less. Let's just steal the ethos from Drew. He's not he's not rocking an iPhone 10 anymore, or an 11 or an SE. But
Mhm.
in my heart, the message still lives on, and I want to. I still want to be some type of a voice of a reason to say, don't drop $3,500 on something you can't afford. Don't buy a Pro just because there's one more lens and it's titanium. Who cares? USB C is USB C. Um, there's a lot that I feel like you can try to make the best with less, because less is more in some ways.
Right.
But I don't know. But then the hypocrite in me says, "But Mike, I want you to get the SC4, or Carrie gets the SC4. Somebody gets SC4 so I can live vicariously through them and scratch all my wishes and wants and desires about, like, ooh, how does it feel? Ooh, how's the battery life? Oh, what's the camera like? All these things. Like, the camera's that it's using the iPhone 15 camera for less than $400. I could see myself getting nerd out about all that stuff. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Hey, I want to close. We're gonna keep the podcast short this week, mainly because it's just the two of us. We got another show to do, and
We got the Vision Pro Blues.
got the Vision Pro Blues, and my kid is currently asleep, and I'm purposely like keeping an ear out for him. Um, but I wanted to close by asking you a question, just a single question. You know,
I think I can handle that.
okay, it's going to require you to give it a lengthy response, though, but that's okay. I want you to build in your mind, how, if you can today, with not what it might be what you have now, but in your mind, you're in charge at some higher level of Apple. What is the perfect ecosystem layout for somebody who can work from home off of a Mac, assuming you don't need a company computer, assuming you can run everything off of your own, like BYO everything, BYOD, okay? All
Hmm.
the D's. uh I want you to build the perfect Apple ecosystem. I'm asking you this because I think I'm about to be in this position myself. So I want to hear from you. Build the perfect Apple ecosystem with as less money as possible. Okay. So not a maxed out Mac Pro with a maxed out MacBook Pro with a maxed out Vision Pro, maxed out iPhone, like
Hmm.
from a home studio, from a home office standpoint, build the perfect Apple ecosystem with as much money saved as possible. What is that to you?
That is a very tough question. uh, Also, yeah, at least for me, I think I have to put that stipulation on me because if I open that up to anyone else, they've got all the different use cases. Um,
That's fair. Yeah.
in which that's tough. If you want to go for the most, maybe not the most utility per dollar, um, but it's, of course, I'm going to constrain it to myself. I would say I could get away with a MacBook Air.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be anything bigger than 8 GB. I know there's a lot of people in the Talos of Discord that say otherwise, but I'm perfectly content with my 8 GB that I got right now of memory. It's perfectly fine for my use cases. And it's one of the cheapest MacBooks you can get, MacBook Airs, and the color's great, and it's got enough ports for everything that I need. It's a good computer. So I'd say probably, yeah, that, whether it's home office or not, this means that you could take it wherever if you want to go anywhere else, but you're not putting down a whole bunch of money. So I think it works, and kind of how you're living right now, that gives you a little bit more money in your wallet to either splurge and or not even splurge, but just get another monitor to plug into. So then that way you got another display if the MacBook Air's display is too small for you. Along with that, for the iPhone, I feel like I'd have to recommend to myself the current gen iPhone being the 15.
Mm-hmm.
But just what you or my wife has, the base 15. I don't think you necessarily need a third sensor like you said previously. I think you can get by with just the two sensors, and it's doing fine already. Maybe,
Or the higher
uh,
storage for that matter too.
yeah, if you want to add higher storage, you can. I don't think it's necessarily that uh, imperative, especially if you're going to want to back it up either in the cloud or on your computer or on an SSD elsewhere. I think that's maybe where you can save a little bit more and just upload it to the computer, then to the SSD, or just upload to the SSD directly. I think if you can do that, I'm not too sure because I don't have a USB-C iPhone, so
Yeah.
I haven't been able to try that yet. But yeah, the MacBook Air, the 15 regular, and probably AirPods Pro second gen. Those seem like a pretty good uh, headphone. I don't think you need to get the Max, and I don't think you need to downgrade to the Bose. I think we've already saved a bit of money on the MacBook Air and the
Yeah.
15 regular. That you could probably get the AirPods Pro and be fine. And I love mine, even though that they're causing me a lot of issues. Not the second gen. I've got the first gen, but that the first gen are just very much they're having a tough time right now. I've had them ever since I think maybe like a year into the first gen, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, of the AirPods Pro. And
I think they gave me issues too the first gen.
yeah, it's still struggling, even though that I've had, I believe, one of them replaced or both of them replaced. And I think I still have the same case, but it's still the headphones causing an issue. Um, but I would still probably recommend them because the only bad thing has been sometimes when the sound either crackles and then you just stop hearing the audio from whatever you're listening to,
Yeah.
or just doesn't want to connect, or specifically with my 14 Pro, it keeps on notifying me, hey, you've got AirPods Pro connected. Hey, you have AirPods Pro connected. Hey, you've got AirPods Pro connected. Yes, I get it. Why do you keep on pinging me? I'm just trying to watch something. Uh, yeah. So probably those three. Uh, is there anything else? I don't think you need an iPad. I
Mm,
don't think you need to get an Apple monitor. I think you could get by with an LG one. I don't think you necessarily need AirTags unless you're my wife, who tends to misplace things, in which the AirTags have been great for her, or for us, I should say,
yeah.
in finding lost keys or other things, or even tracking the car. The truck doesn't have tracking on it, the Tesla does. And so it's nice being able to track the truck with an AirTag, so that way you can kind of figure out where the truck is. But yeah, I would say those three products are kind
Okay.
of the essential pillars if I were to go at it again for myself and or someone who has similar use cases as me, where they do some editing, but they're mainly just using the computer for looking at desktop web pages or recording or anything else. It doesn't need to be big, and you can always get an SSD to add onto it. And if you want to add the storage to it, you can, but I don't think it's necessary. Uh, Maybe like the second storage option of 512 is good enough. But
All right.
yeah, I think that's probably my ecosystem. I don't
You're
think
not too
there's
far from me. In some ways, you're
yeah.
being better than me. Uh, but I'm gonna build something out in lifetime for you then.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming what we have today, as in February, there is no new iPhone SE. Here's how I would build my home studio if I had to start all over again. I would spend for me. I'm gonna go off of your premise. Like I have to go off of for me. For me, I would have the veteran discount, which means I would buy an iPhone 15 for 719 instead of I think 750.
Mm-hmm.
So 719 for an iPhone 15. I would go back to a 15. I I was on the fence about this one, but I was like, would I get the MacBook Air with the M2 chip, or do I get a MacBook Air M1? And the truth is, I think I would pull the trigger on MacBook Air M1. I think I would go back to M1 if I'm being honest. So, 899 is what my price would be for that. Unlike you though, I would buy an Apple monitor because I'm trying to stay within the Apple ecosystem. And I bought this one certified refurbished and I spent $1,200. So that's how much that would go.
Hmm.
And I scroll down. I don't need anything from. I agree with the iPad thing. I don't think I need anything from the iPad. Uh, I think I would buy. Not I think I would buy AirPods for a wireless connection because I would most likely do all things wireless at this point. So that would put me in. Where are you at? Headphones. Okay. That would put me in. I would do second gen. Ooh, whoa, wait. Yeah, second gen's amazing. For that price, I feel like I might go over budget. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna do if I do AirPods Pro second gen, that's $224 for me. That's USB C. I would be just a little. Okay, we're gonna minus 224. I can't do it. So because I had a number in my head and I busted. I would go with AirPods, regular AirPods, third gen. Uh, it says MagSafe only. I guess there's no USB C, but that's okay. Wireless is fine.
I forgot
Wireless
about that.
charging would be
Mm-hmm.
161. Oh no, plus 161. What happened? I lost my number. 161 for the AirPods, uh, regular AirPods, third gen. I have to re-add this number here. Hang on a second. Okay. All right, I'm back right. Plus 1,200 for the studio display is what I spent. That's the most expensive thing, but I would use it. I'm using it right now. I use that daily. Plus 899 for M1 MacBook Air. Plus 719 for an iPhone, which would double as my camera, which I'm also using right now. Whoo! I'm under. All right. The final total for my home studio would be $2,979 pre-tax. My goal was to be under 3,000. That's how I would build out my ecosystem again, and nothing else. No Apple Watch, no iPad, no. Oh, you know what? I forgot something. I know it's a monthly subscription, but I do it now. Plus $3 a month for 200 gigabytes of iCloud storage, since I would be using a base everything. So
Uh,
out of pocket,
yeah, I wouldn't do that.
29.82.
Wow.
No, yeah.
That's not terrible.
Now I'm in the Apple ecosystem. I got everything that I want, and it only tailors to me because of my 10% discount
Mhm.
with the military thing. But yep, there we go. Now I got it. So I think I could do that. I agree with your lineup. Your lineup was right. I was before you gave me your setup. I was like, oh, I would get an iPad Mini, have it at the ready. But I was like, no, now you're just being frugal. Anywho, closing thoughts, Mike.
Uh, Not too sure. Maybe be a little bit more frugal for 2024, but otherwise spend the money that you want to spend, people. Just know that if you spend less, you can spend more later, or you can spend more now and spend less later. Either or. Do what you want. Just, you know, be safe with your tech and have fun with it. I think that's
You're
my
chasing if you spend more upfront now, you're chasing that high for the next one and the next one. Uh, you don't have the
you
new
may or may not have
Apple.
the bandwidth.
Apple has convinced us that new is always better, and I don't. I'm trying really hard to fight against that. I'm trying hard, trying, but I think I'm failing. I don't know. Anywho, all right. Well, thanks for coming on today, Mike. This was fun. Just the
Of
two of us.
course. Thanks for co-hosting, Randy. It's always fun hearing your thoughts. And for you, audience, we will catch you next time, hopefully with a Drew in tow or in front. And if not, then the both of us will see you next week. Thanks for
All right.
listening, and we'll catch you later.
Take care. Bye bye.